Hello and welcome back to the Single Malt Review. We are still on the trail of Kavalan and it's time to try the next one down, which I believe is Fino Sherry, which will be ringing a few bells for anyone tracing the ascendancy of Kavalan. That was the very, very famous blue bottle of the Solist, which brought the whole thing, well, down or up, depending on one's perspective. It was the one that started the whole Kavalan fire.
We're going from Oloroso Sherry in our previous review through to Fino Sherry. Once again, 54% ABV, so a very potent bottling.
Right, so my expectations, based on the last one, which if you were not keeping up, which you should be, that was a very high 80s from us. I think it was 87 and 89 respectively, which is a pretty solid score for a no-age statement whiskey. So this one, being an even more famous name, harking back to the that blue bottled, well, blue packaged anyway, Solist, of which I stuffed up and had the opportunity to buy it duty free for a fraction of the price that would realise later on at auction. I got the Oloroso Sherry, which was nonetheless an absolutely cracking dram. That really was an unbeatable year for Kavalan. I don't know what was going on, but at any rate, this one is conspicuously darker, I think.
Ooh. Quite possibly. Here's the Oloroso for comparison. Yeah, there is it is shade darker. Ooh. Now, I must admit, my Fino Sherry experience is very limited. I believe we tried some, frankly, ancient Fino Sherry on a show a year or two ago. That's possibly the only time I've had an actual straight-up Fino on its own.
Sherry is a bit of a freak. I probably know more than I should about Fino Sherry because it was the essay question on one of my wine school exams. But Fino Sherry is made in possibly the most disgusting way imaginable. It's most sherry is the whole thing about sherry is that it's oxidized. That's why it's got these deep walnutty complex flavors. Fino Sherry is not oxidized, but the reason it's not oxidized is because of basically mold. It's charitably called floor yeast, whereas most sherry is
floor as in flora.
Sort of. You'd have to ask the Spaniards, but
sure.
Whereas most sherry is filled into a barrel, there's a little bit of air pocket, and the sherry is strong enough that nothing can grow on it because clean distilling, as we like to do around here. And it oxidizes because it can communicate with the air. Fino Sherry is fortified just enough that bugs can grow on it. And so you get this lovely, disgusting layer of what they refer to as floor yeast, but what is in practice this layer of godforsaken mold.
Of fungus.
Yeah, an iceberg of awfulness on top of the sherry, which acts in its own gross way as a buffer between the atmosphere and the top of the barrel and the whiskey.
Preventing air contact.
It does not oxidize. But it does become an absolute freak show of a taste because of this interaction with the mold zone, and it's its own crazy thing, and I truly don't think anyone drinks it anymore. I think those people are all either dead or aliens who drink Fino Sherry, because I've tried it, and I'm a charitable palate. I will try anything, and I will go in there and I will give it the and I couldn't make it work on Fino Sherry. I tried to talk myself into the fact that I liked it because it was this weird ghost of the past, but I couldn't do it. As for what that does to the oak, I truly couldn't tell you, because the taste of Fino Sherry is like a weird sherbety, lemony, sharp thing.
I recall it being very dry as well.
It's very dry.
All the sugars leached out by those yeasts.
But the cask is in the perfectly normal Spanish oak cask. So I think that's probably what we're looking at. The Fino nature of the sherry may have absolutely bugger all nothing to do with it. We will just have to do the whiskey science and find that out on the back end.
As we know, the tasting notes on a whiskey matured in a given cask can differ wildly from whatever was matured in that cask before.
So,
okay, going in on the nose.
So, what we've got is a really pretty wooden nose here.
It's lemony.
It's got a bit of, it's quite oaky, and then there's a sharpness there, which is probably coming through for the lemon for you. The last one was very berry. It was very, very, very fruity. This one is a lot more austere. It's a lot more, it is just a lot oakier. There's a lot of oak tannin here. There's some black tea, quite a lot of black tea actually.
Which is ironic, given that black tea is oxidized.
True, it's fermented as well.
Yeah.
Don't get me started on how they make tea. But anyway, there's black tea leaves, not the brewed tea.
Hint of tobacco, pipe tobacco.
There is tobacco. Yeah. There's a lot of char.
I'm not getting the char personally, but then Ian, different experiences.
There is. Goodness, I had a flash of something, and it's going to haunt me. Never mind, we'll move on. This will come back to me later. But yeah, there's a little bit of eucalypt. There's a little bit of just a touch of anise on there, and it was really quite dry and quite focused. The expansive fruitiness of the Oloroso is quite constrained here, considering it is dollars for donuts, more or less the same wood. So that's quite intriguing. So on the palate, full strength, which was too strong for me last time, but we'll have another crack at it. Now, I'm going to sound like a crazy person, but that seems milder on the palate than the last one. The alcohol burn is... I can feel it down here, but I always feel it down here because I've ingested poison. But in terms of on the tongue, maybe it's just the exercise I got from tasting the last one, which we did 20 minutes ago, but... this one seems a little bit gentler. I wonder if this is a little... okay.
Maybe it's a much more subjective whiskey.
And on the finish, I really like that finish. There's a real toasted nut. There's almond, walnut. All the things you'd expect from sherry wood are coming through, but they're coming through really, really quite distinctly. And without that, it's more honey drizzled nuts. All of this red fruit is sort of to the side on this one. It's less of a...
I got kind of I'd compare it to limoncello. It's very citric, but with a oddly sweet, syrupy property to it. And then that explosive chili heat as it slowly ignites and engulfs your taste buds. Wow.
Let's see what water does. I think this might benefit from a bit of water.
Oh, dang. That just sneaks up on you. You think it's going to be a mild, smooth, easy tasting whiskey, but
here we go. Here we go. This has the nuts have taken control. The nuts have truly entered the building, and it has gotten sweeter as well. It was already quite sweet right now. There's quite a sumptuous quality there, but it is braced. It is framed by these really quite drying oak tannins. This sort of walnut and oaky char that's coming on. I think this is really quite fresh oak. There's much less of the... I mean, maybe it's the sherry science. Maybe a less aggressively flavoured sherry has a less aggressive effect on the wood. And so what we're getting is more pure oak here than anything else, which I think is as good an explanation as any, because there is really quite pure oak notes here. And once again, we're getting quite a good cloud from that water, so nice, unchill filtered, as we like to see. Yeah, it's almost as if it's drier and sweeter at the same time. It's less, in terms of the sumptuous fruity ripeness, that's almost completely gone. But the honey has accentuated it a little bit more. It's possible that it's just the contrast between the two. We were tasting so much ripe fruit with the Oloroso one that the intrinsically sweet honey barley malt aspects were getting a little bit drowned out because our taste buds were just so focused on these ripe fruit, and that can happen. I find that a lot when I'm tasting beers and wines in a more commercial context, that if there is ripe fruit, your tongue just goes literally bananas and focuses on them, because that's just how we are as animals. If we get a whiff of ripe fruit, it's like, oh, where is it? Gimme. Whereas we're not tuned to seek out these more esoteric flavours, so they're intrinsically harder to really, really knuckle down on.
So much more subdued than the Oloroso. It's still big and impactful in its own way, but whereas the Oloroso sherry was almost overwhelming with its syrupy sweetness, this one has just dialed back on that. I guess usually being a drier fortified wine that was in the cask before. So it's a drier whiskey, which is letting other things just shine through. And as you say, like palates sort of tuned towards seeking out sweetness. With that gone, there are other things coming into play, and they're much more evident.
I really like this. I like this quite a bit more than the Oloroso. There's marzipan. There's all of these subtleties.
Yeah, it's nuttier and more savoury. Still a bit of acid, a lot of citrus, and just the heat of that blistering high ABV.
Yeah, I like this quite a bit. Oh no, the sun's coming in. I'm like Captain Kirk over here. The sun is coming in the window. Anyway, that's a bit for you early Star Trek people out. But also, I can't see, so we should give this whiskey some scores. Like I say, this one is really doing it. This is extremely doing it, and this might be unprecedented. But this is a 90-point whiskey for no age statement. This is. I would need to check the records, which are now Leviathan and huge and unsorted, so I'm probably not going to. But I think this may be the highest score I've ever given a no age statement whiskey. It really is something quite special.
Well, I'll be going a little bit lower, but this still ranks at 87, so we're close to that 90% gold medal territory for me, by my own personal reckoning. But yeah, it is a fascinating, unique whiskey. It is honestly one of a kind. I've not tasted this sort of this uniqueness, this degree of idiosyncrasy in a long time, and especially just being something that's just a pure Fino Sherry cask, that is worth it for that uniqueness alone.
Yeah, no, it is really rummy. And again, my sense of expectation is only becoming greater and more unfair on the rest of the selection, which I have not even previewed myself as to what. Why don't you give it a real sneak preview? What are we looking into? Those who are still watching the video and haven't just gone, another one. What have we got to look forward to?
Next up will be. Gosh, this is hard to read sometimes. Wine oak. I'll have to do some
ambiguous
internet research, the manner of wine. That's followed by a peated expression, which is the weak, the piddly, mere 50% ABV. And finally, this is what I'm looking forward to the most. This is brandy oak. So it's been matured in a spirit cask. That's going to be, I guess you have it all time with bourbon cask. But still, this is going to be something never.
Well, we've tried. I suppose cognac casks are brandy casks, and etymologically. But we've had some real bangers from cognac cask matured whiskies. Anyway, I will take my radiant self out and close the curtains because this is a lot. Anyway, catch us for the next one. Sláinte.